Bonjour. Et vous avez déjà pratiqué un peu du présent, mais aujourd'hui, on va finir. On va travailler indépendamment en le faisant. So you have your verb card and your notebook out, and we're going to continue getting all the verbs in the present tense that we need to know into our notes. You already saw in class and you have already written on your verb card regular ER verbs. You've done a practice. We will see them again. Here they are in case you don't have them on the top of your verb card. By the way, at any time, pause the recording so you can copy things. IR verbs, we also saw those IR verbs, and RE verb endings. Then some of us saw this. So period 2 saw this already. So you can advance. If you are period 1, please pause the recording. And in your notebook, write the conjugations for these verbs. And here are the answers. So let's go back to your regular ER, IR, and RE verbs. And let's try to figure out maybe what went wrong. Pause, raise your hand, and I'll come over. Okay, so again, period 2, you've seen this already. You should carry on. Period 5, if you could pause your recording and in your notebook, write the conjugations for these 4 verbs. And now let's take a look. Those 4 verbs, one of which was être, which means to be. It is completely irregular. You can only learn it by memorizing it. The good news is you used it lots last year. Je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont. Now you've got the recording. Practice the pronunciation. Also on your verb card, but now underneath those regular verbs, you will have the rest of your verb card will be irrégulier, irregular verbs. Title that, and your first irregular verb, nice and neatly, nice and clearly, not too big. Copy down the verb être. So pause the recording, get that written down, spelled correctly. Listen to this section over a few times and practice the pronunciation. Même chose avec avoir. It is also irregular. Let's practice saying it. J'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont. So notice in the plural, you do have liaison. The S makes a Z sound coming over to the A. Nous avons, vous avez, elles ont. And you also have a contraction here with the je. You drop the E and make it an apostrophe. J'ai. So pause the recording. Copy that onto your verb card. Voilà, en plus, on a faire, which means to do or to make. Some people say they see a pattern with faire. If you do, fantastique. If you don't, no worries. But it is not an RE verb. It is completely irregular. Alors, on va le dire. Je fais, tu fais, il fait, nous faisons, vous faites, ils font. So pause the recording and get that written down on your verb card. Aller, to go. Aller, in the boot, some people say there is a pattern. They all start with V. Outside of the boot, the nous and the vous form are treated just like regular ER verbs. On va écouter, répéter. Je vais, tu vas, il va, nous allons, vous allez, ils vont. Now copy that onto your verb card. Again, your verb card is meant to be something that helps you. So if you don't need the subject pronouns, don't write them. If you think you know this verb so well that anytime you're ever quizzed on it, you have it, don't write it. But for those of us, some of us might want to write not just je vais, but we might want to write right next to it what that means. What does je vais mean? I go, but it also means I am going. In French, the present participle, the inging of the verb, doesn't exist in the way it does in English. So there is one present tense in French. We have present progressive and the present tense in English. Bon, pause the recording, get that on your verb card. Et voilà les réponses. So here are the answers to what you did as a starter. Check your work and see if it makes sense to you. Voilà. Bon, okay, new pattern, new verbs. These 6 verbs all follow the same pattern. Do what you can to see what you remember and pause the recording and write these answers in your notebook. Okay, on va découvrir. Let's take a look. These irregular verbs do have a pattern. So if we look at dormir, dormir looks like an IR verb, but notice the endings are more similar to an RE verb. They are not RE verbs because you have this T here, but let's talk about it. What are you doing? You're taking off the IR and adding ER and RE verb endings on the plural side. Nous dormons, vous dormez, ils dorment. Clear enough. On the singular side, however, you're taking off not just the IR, but the consonant before. So you're left with the stem of DOR. Je dors, add an S. Tu dors, add an S, just like an RE verb. But in the third person, il dort. Instead of adding nothing, you add a T. So the resulting verb, je dors, tu dors, il dort, nous dormons, vous dormez, ils dorment. Don't forget, with all these verbs that end in ENT, the ENT is silent. Ils dorment. Pause the recording, get that written down into your notes. Autre verbe exactement égaux. So here's an equal verb, just like dormir. And what do we expect to see? We expect to see on the plural side, take off the IR, add RE endings. We got them. On the singular side, take off the IR plus a consonant before the IR and add SST. That's what we did. On écoute. Je mens, tu mens, il ment. Nous montons, vous montez, il monte. If you don't see the pattern, raise your hand, call me over, and we'll have a chat about it. Otherwise, pause the recording and get one of these verbs written down on your verb card. Here's another verb like it. Partir, same thing. IR, take off the T, add these same endings. Did you get the pattern? On your verb card, you have one of these verbs, whether it's partir or sortir, mentir, one of them conjugated. But somewhere there, you should also list verbs like it. So, endormir is to go to sleep, where dormir is just to sleep. Servir, to serve. Sentir, to feel. And sortir, which we know already, is to exit or to go out. So pause the recording, on your verb card, conjugate one of these, but include the list of verbs that are conjugated in a similar pattern. Voila, so in your notebook, you had started by trying to conjugate these 6 verbs. Here they are correctly conjugated. Possibly you didn't have that in the beginning, so make your corrections now. Voila, aussi. So last year, hopefully you also saw CER and GER verbs. Let's take a look at these so we can get them on our verb cards. Pause the recording, write these 4 conjugations in your notebook. And then after we talk about it, you'll see the answers and you can correct. So what do we have? GER verbs. GER verbs are conjugated like ER verbs, except you add an E in the new form. Why do we do that? Because after the G, it is a soft sound when it's followed by a soft vowel. It is a hard sound when it is followed by a hard vowel. Let's take a look. So if we take a verb like nager, which means to swim, notice G followed by E is a nice je sound. Je nage, tu nages, il nage. However, in the new form, if we didn't have this E here and it was just G-O, it would be nous nageons. Well, we don't want to say nage, 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 nageons. We want to say nageons. And in order to turn that to a soft G, we have to put something soft after it, such as the letter E. Nageons. Other than the new form, the endings are regular ER verb endings. And then we have CER verbs. They are ER verbs. However, same thing. C followed by a soft vowel makes a S sound, followed by a hard vowel like A makes a K sound. So we add the CD to the C. That's an accent mark that makes a C sound like an S. Could we have added an E there? The French could have, but they didn't. So take a look. J'avance, tu avances. Oh, there's an error. Let's fix that. Oops, oops, oops. You knew there was going to be a problem, right? Okay, let's just quickly check that. There should be an S there. Bien sûr que oui. But anyways, we can still say it. J'avance, tu avances, il avance, nous avons quand. No, we want nous avançons. So we put the cedi. Vous avancez, ils avancent. Avancer means to advance. Okay, so here are your answers, but actually perhaps you want to go back and get these CER and GER verbs written onto your verb card. Whether you write the endings, make sure it's clear you're talking about CER verbs and GER verbs. So either have the ending or maybe you like to have a conjugated example. But make sure you highlight that you have to add the cedi in the new form only. And here are your answers to that practice. Nous avançons, je mange. Elle commence, nous nageons. Oh, yes, there's more. Let's keep going. Pause the recording and conjugate these 4 verbs. So you've seen one of these verbs already, and it is a verb like acheter. We looked at se lever. Remember that verb? But let's look at acheter, which means to buy. But with acheter, ER makes a hard sound, A. So therefore, this vowel is short. A, sh, T, E. So in the boot, we don't need the we need the E sound. Let's take a look at an example. When we take off the ER ending and add our regular ER verb endings, if we didn't add this accent mark in the boot, it would be j'achète, tu achètes, il achète, nous achetons, vous achetez. So we don't want that sound. We want j'achète, tu achètes, il achète, nous achetons, vous achetez, ils achètent. Now, someone in one of the classes this year mentioned, couldn't you just double the T to get an et sound? You could, but the French didn't. So somehow you need to jot down verbs that have an E consonant ER as a verb group. So pause the recording and get this onto your verb card. Loads of verbs like acheter. So I would add, where you have this group of verbs on your verb card, add in some of these verbs. Some of them we use an awful lot. So pause the recording and add those verbs to your verb card. And here are the answers to that starter, to that chunk. Notice it's not tu achètes, it's tu achètes. Élève.